Kyle's voice was firm. I won't trap Rowan into a bond he doesn't want, not even to save his life. What if I want it? The words escaped before Rowan could stop them. Kyle's head snapped toward him. You don't know what you're saying. You're injured, emotional. I'm clear-headed enough to know that everything I've done, leaving my father's house, giving you intelligence, taking that blade, it was all because I chose you. Rowan held Kyle's gaze. I chose your kingdom over mine, your people over my family, you over everything. A formal bond just makes that choice official. Rowan? Cale's voice was barely a whisper. I'm not asking you to love me, Cale. I understand what this is. Political necessity. But if there's a way to protect your people and keep me alive, why wouldn't we take it? The prince was silent for a long moment, emotion warring across his features. Finally, he turned to Vesa. How much time do we have to decide? The bonding ceremony would need to happen before dawn, or it won't stop Lord Silvermere's ultimatum. Kyle looked back at Rowan, something fierce and possessive burning in his eyes. If we do this, there's no going back. You'd be mine, Rowan. Legally, politically, in every way that matters. I know. And Cale's jaw clenched. I take care of what's mine. Fiercely, completely. You need to understand what you're agreeing to. Rowan's breath caught at the intensity in Cale's voice, the promise underlying the words. I'm agreeing to survive, to help you, to become what we both need. And what do I need? An ally. A partner. Someone who understands your enemies because they were once one of them. Rowan paused, then added softly, someone who will stand between you and blades. Kyle's control visibly cracked. He crossed the distance, careful of Rowan's injury, and captured his mouth in a kiss that was claim and question and answer all at once. Rowan melted into it, one hand fisting in Kyle's tunic, tasting desperation and desire, and something that felt dangerously like hope. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Kale rested his forehead against Rowan's again. 3 hours until dawn. If we do this, we do it properly. I won't have anyone questioning the legitimacy of our bond. Then I suppose, Rowan said, smile trembling on his lips, we should prepare for a wedding. From enemies to allies to something deeper. Cale and Rowan's bond will change everything. But can love bloom in the shadow of war? React with heart emoji if this forbidden romance has captured your heart. The scent of betrayal. Prince Cale Thornridge had survived 17 assassination attempts, 3 wars, and a plague that nearly decimated the northern territories. But nothing prepared him for the Omega who walked into his throne room smelling like winter roses and treason. The heavy oak doors groaned open, and every alpha in the chamber tensed. Kyle's hand moved instinctively to the hilt of his sword, though protocol demanded he remain seated. The figure that entered wore the crimson and gold of House Silvermere, his family's blood enemies for 3 generations. and moved with a grace that made Kyle's pulse quicken in ways that had nothing to do with combat readiness. Your Highness. The Omega's voice carried across the stone hall, steady, despite the hostile stares. I am Rowan Silvermere. I come seeking asylum. Kyle's advisor, Lord Brennan, stepped forward immediately. This is a trap. The Silvermeres have slaughtered my border villages, poisoned my water supplies. I'm aware, Brennan. Kale's eyes never left the Omega before him. Rowan Silvermere. He'd heard whispers of Lord Silvermere's youngest child, hidden away, some said, because an Omega heir was considered a weakness. Looking at Rowan now, weakness seemed an impossibility. Why should I grant you anything but a cell? Kyle demanded, rising from his throne. He descended the steps slowly, watching Rowan's throat work as he swallowed. Because I have information about my father's next attack, Rowan said. His eyes, striking amber that caught the torchlight, held Kyle's without flinching. And because I'm worth more to you alive than dead. That remains to be seen. Kyle stopped 3 feet away, close enough to catch the full force of Rowan's scent. It crashed over him like a wave, sweet, complex, utterly intoxicating. His alpha instincts roared to life, demanding he step closer, that he protect, that he claim. Kyle forced himself to remain still, jaw clenched so tightly, his teeth ached. Rowan's pupils dilated slightly. He could scent Kyle's reaction. Of course. Omega's always good. Your father sent you, Kale stated flatly. A honey trap. Clever, I'll admit. My father doesn't know I'm here. Something flickered across Rowan's face. Pain, quickly masked. If he did, I'd already be dead. He doesn't tolerate defection, even from family, especially from family. Then you're either a traitor or a spy. Neither inspires trust. I'm a survivor. Rowan's voice dropped, raw with emotion that couldn't be feigned, and I'm done surviving under a tyrant's rule. My father plans to attack during the Harvest Moon Festival, 3 days from now. He's amassed troops along the western ridge. I can show you where. I can give you everything. Kyle studied him, searching for deception and finding only desperate determination. His instincts screamed contradictions. Trust him, reject him, protect him, imprison him. Brennan, Kyle said without turning. Secure quarters in the North Tower. Post guards. No one enters or leaves without my permission. You're making a mistake, Brennan warned. Perhaps he was. But as Rowan's shoulders sagged with relief, something in Kale's chest tightened impossibly. 3 days until the festival. 3 days to determine if Rowan Silvermere was his salvation or his destruction. What secrets does Rowan carry? And can Kale protect his kingdom without losing his heart? Follow this story to discover if enemies can become everything. Comment below. Team Trust or Team Trap? Your ghosts in the garden. Kale found Rowan in the royal gardens at dawn, standing beneath the silver birch where Kale's mother used to read to him as a child. The Omega's posture radiated tension, arms wrapped around himself despite the mild temperature. For a moment, Kyle simply watched from the colonnade, telling himself he was assessing a potential threat, not admiring the way morning light caught in Rowan's dark auburn hair. "The guards reported your location," Kyle said, stepping onto the gravel path. Rowan spun, hand flying to his chest. "You walk quietly for someone so—" Rowan's eyes traveled over Kyle's broad frame. "Substantial." "I found it advantageous not to announce myself." Kyle moved closer, noting the shadows beneath Rowan's eyes. "You didn't sleep, would you? In enemy territory, surrounded by people who want you dead. My people want answers. There's a difference." Kyle gestured to a stone bench. "Sit." "Tell me about the Western Ridge." Rowan remained standing. "I'll tell you in the war room with your generals. That's why I'm here. You're here because I allowed it. Everything else is negotiable." Kyle let his alpha authority seep into his voice, a subtle dominance that usually made Omegas comply instinctively. Rowan's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "I'm not one of your subjects to command, Your Highness. I'm an asset offering a trade. Treat me like a prisoner, and you'll get a prisoner's cooperation. Treat me like an ally. Quote, you're not my ally. You're a Silvermere. I stopped being a Silvermere the moment I walked through those doors." Rowan's voice cracked, genuine anguish breaking through. "My father will hunt me for this betrayal. My brothers will compete for who gets to bring back my head. I've sacrificed everything to be here, and you stand there looking at me like I'm something you scraped off your boot." The accusation stung because it held truth. Kyle had spent the night warring with instincts that demanded contradictory actions. Protect this Omega, destroy this threat, claim this magnificent creature who smelled like home and danger in equal measure. "My mother died in one of your father's raids," Kyle said quietly. "I was 12. She was inspecting a border village when his soldiers attacked. They didn't just kill her, Rowan. They made sure I'd see her body, positioned so—" He stopped, the memory still raw 15 years later. "So you'll forgive me if I'm not rushing to embrace a Silvermere with open arms." Rowan's expression shifted. Something like understanding. Or was it pity? Softening his features. "I was 7 when that happened. I remember my father celebrating that night. He got drunk, toasted to one less Thornridge. Even then, I knew it was wrong. I just didn't understand how deeply the rot went." They stood in silence, years of bloodshed stretching between them like an uncrossable chasm. Then Rowan did something unexpected. He pulled a small leather journal from his jacket and held it out. "This contains everything. Troop movements, supply routes, my father's strategic plans for the next 6 months, names of spies embedded in your territories. I could recite it in your war room, or you could read it yourself and decide if I'm worth keeping alive." Kyle took the journal, their fingers brushing. The contact sent electricity racing up his arm. Rowan felt it too. His breath caught audibly. "Why?" Kyle asked. "Why betray your family?" "Because family isn't just blood. It's supposed to be about loyalty, love, protection." Rowan's amber eyes glistened. "My father has none of those. He's a monster, and I refuse to become one too." Kyle opened the journal, scanning pages filled with precise handwriting and detailed maps. If this information was accurate, it was worth a kingdom's ransom. If you're lying, Kyle said, if this is some elaborate, then kill me. Rowan's voice was steady. But first, let me help you save your people. That's all I'm asking. Kyle studied him. This impossible Omega who smelled like winter roses and walked into enemy territory offering salvation. Trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. But something in Rowan's gaze, determined and desperate and achingly honest, made Kale want to try. The War Council meets in 2 hours, Kyle said finally. You'll present this information. And Rowan, if you've betrayed me, no power in this kingdom will save you from my wrath. I'd expect nothing less, Your Highness. The stakes rise as Kyle and Rowan forge an uneasy alliance. But can trust bloom where only hatred grew before? Drop a fire emoji if you're invested in this forbidden connection. The Festival of Lies. The War Council had not gone as Rowan hoped. General Thorne wanted him executed. Lady Commander Vessa suggested creative torture. Only Kale's authority kept Rowan breathing, though the prince's expression remained unreadable as stone throughout the presentation. Now, with the Harvest Moon Festival hours away, Rowan paced his chambers, luxurious as prisons went, while guards stood outside his door. The journal had bought him consideration, not trust. Kyle had deployed scouts to verify the intelligence about the Western Ridge. If Rowan's information proved false, his execution would be swift. If it proved true, he'd still be a Silvermere in Thornridge territory. Some fates were slower than execution. A knock interrupted his spiraling thoughts. Kyle entered without waiting for permission, dressed in ceremonial armor that made him look every inch the warrior prince. Rowan's Omega instincts hummed with approval before he ruthlessly suppressed them. Your intelligence was accurate, Kale said without preamble. We found the encampment exactly where you indicated. 400 soldiers, siege equipment, everything. Relief weakened Rowan's knees. Then you'll defend the western approach? We'll do better than that. We'll use your father's plan against him. Kale's smile was sharp as a blade. But I need something from you first. Suspicion prickled along Rowan's spine. What? Attend the festival with me, publicly. Rowan stared. You want to parade me around like a trophy? Show everyone you've captured a Silvermere? I want to show everyone I have an ally from House Silvermere. Someone willing to stand against tyranny. Kale stepped closer, and Rowan's back hit the wall. Your father's spies are everywhere. They'll report back that you're not my prisoner. You're my guest. It'll infuriate him, make him reckless. It'll make me a target. You were already a target the moment you left your father's house. Kyle's voice dropped, intimate despite the formal words. At least here, you have me standing between you and the blade. The promise in those words ignited something dangerous in Rowan's chest. Why do you care if I live or die? I gave you the intelligence. You don't need me anymore. Kyle's hand rose, hovering near Rowan's face, but not quite touching. I'm beginning to think I do. The confession hung between them, charged with possibility and peril. Rowan's heart hammered You hate my family. You said I said your father was a monster. I never said you were. Kale's grey eyes searched his face. Come to the festival, Rowan. Help me show the kingdom that peace is possible, that enemies can become something else. Something else, Rowan echoed. What are we, Kyle? The prince's name slipped out unbidden, without honorifics. Kale's pupils dilated at the sound. I don't know yet, Kale admitted, but I want to find out. Against every survival instinct, Rowan nodded. The festival square blazed with lanterns and bonfires. Music wove through crowds of celebrating citizens, and the scent of roasted meat and spiced wine filled the air. Rowan walked beside Kyle, acutely aware of every stare, every whispered comment. His hand rested in the crook of Kale's elbow, proper escort etiquette. But the contact sent continuous shivers through his system. Smile, Kale murmured. You look like you're attending your own funeral. I might be. Not on my watch. They made their circuit. Kyle introducing Rowan to nobles and merchants with careful diplomacy. Some responded with curiosity, others with barely concealed hostility. Through it all, Kyle remained a solid presence at Rowan's side, protective without being possessive. Then the music shifted to a traditional courting dance, and Kyle turned to him with an extended hand. Dance with me. Rowan's breath caught. That's Kyle. That's a public declaration of intent. Everyone will think. Let them think. Kale's expression was challenging. Unless you're afraid. Pride warred with self-preservation. Pride won. Rowan placed his hand in Kale's. The dance was intimate, full of prescribed touches and gazes that mimicked courtship. Kyle led, with confident grace, one hand at Rowan's waist, the other clasping his palm. They moved through the steps, and the crowd fell silent around them, watching the impossible sight. A Thornridge prince courting a Silvermere Omega. You're playing a dangerous game, Rowan whispered as they turned. I know. My father's spies will report this. He'll see it as the ultimate insult. Good. Kyle pulled him closer, as the dance demanded, their bodies nearly flush. Let him rage. Let him make mistakes. And let him know that you're under my protection. The music swelled to its crescendo. Kale spun Rowan out and back, catching him in a dramatic dip that left them inches apart, breathing each other's air. The moment stretched, tension coiling tight between them. Then Rowan saw her. A servant girl at the square's edge, her expression too focused, her hand moving towards something concealed in her apron. Kyle! The knife flashed in firelight. Rowan twisted, shoving Kale aside, as the blade meant for the prince's heart buried itself in Rowan's shoulder instead. Pain exploded through him, white-hot and consuming. He collapsed, distantly aware of chaos erupting, of Kyle's roar of rage, of guards seizing the assassin. Kyle's face appeared above him, anguished and furious. Rowan! Rowan! Stay with me. Told you! Rowan gasped. Darkness creeping into his vision. Dangerous game. You saved my life. Seemed rude not to. The world tilted. Kyle, the attack, the Western Ridge, it's tonight, during the festival. This was just distraction. Understanding blazed across Kyle's features. He barked orders to his guards, then gathered Rowan into his arms with impossible gentleness. Hold on. Please, Rowan. Hold on. But the darkness was so inviting, and Rowan was so very tired of fighting. A shocking betrayal and a selfless sacrifice change everything. Will Rowan survive, and what will his actions cost? Comment. Save him if you're on the edge of your seat. Blood and revelation. Rowan woke to the scent of healing herbs and the sensation of cool fingers pressing against his forehead. His shoulder throbbed with a deep, insistent ache that told him he'd survived what should have killed him. He forced his eyes open to find Kale sitting beside the bed, face haggard with exhaustion, still wearing blood-stained armor. You're awake? Relief transformed Kyle's features. The healer said you'd recover, but seeing it... His voice cracked. The attack? Rowan tried to sit up, gasping as pain lanced through him. Kyle's hands were immediately there, supporting him. Careful of the bandaged shoulder. We repelled them. Your warning gave us just enough time to reinforce the western approach. Your father's forces were caught in a pincer movement. Kyle's expression hardened. He lost over half his troops. The survivors scattered. Casualties? 23 defenders, far fewer than if you hadn't... Kale stopped, his jaw working. Why did you do it, Rowan? Take that blade meant for me? The question hung heavy between them. Rowan could lie, claim strategic value, political necessity. Instead, truth spilled out, raw and undeniable. Because the thought of you dying terrified me more than my own death. He met Kyle's gaze. Because somewhere between enemy and asset, you became someone I couldn't bear to lose. Kyle's breath caught. His hand rose to cup Rowan's face with a tenderness that made Rowan's chest ache. You could have died, but I didn't. Rowan leaned into the touch, starving for connection. And you're alive. That matters more. It shouldn't. Kyle's thumb traced Rowan's cheekbone. You should matter more. To yourself, to... He stopped, clearly warring with something internal. To you? Rowan supplied quietly. Instead of answering with words, Kale leaned forward and pressed his forehead against Rowan's, a gesture of intimacy that transcended anything physical. They breathed together, sharing space and warmth and possibility. I interrogated the assassin, Kyle said finally, not moving away. She confirmed what we suspected. Your father planned the festival attack as a distraction, with you as the main target. He wanted to kill us both. Me for being his enemy, you for being his traitor. Horror curdled in Rowan's stomach. He sent someone to murder his own child, his Omega child, who dared defy him. Kyle's arms came around Rowan carefully, mindful of his injury. I'm sorry. I know he's a monster, but he's still your father. No. Rowan's voice was firm despite the tears burning his eyes. A father protects. A father loves. He's just the man who sired me and taught me what not to become. They held each other as Rowan grieved, not for Lord Silvermere specifically, but for the father he'd never had, the family that had never truly been family. Kyle's presence anchored him, solid and unwavering. A knock on the door broke the moment. Lady Commander Vesa entered, her expression grim. "Your Highness, we have a situation." Kyle straightened, instantly alert. "Report." "Lord Silvermere's forces have regrouped faster than anticipated. He's demanding Rowan's return, claiming we've kidnapped him. He's threatening full-scale war if we don't surrender him within 3 days." Rowan's blood ran cold. "He's using me as an excuse to justify invasion." "Exactly," Vesa confirmed. "Our scouts report he's amassing his entire army. This isn't a border skirmish anymore. This is total war." Kyle stood, pacing to the window. Moonlight carved his profile in silver, highlighting the weight of responsibility he carried. "We can't give Rowan back. Even if we wanted to, which we don't, it would be sending him to his death." "Then we prepare for war," Vesa said. "But Your Highness, our forces are already stretched thin. The festival attack cost us soldiers and resources. A prolonged campaign against Silvermere's full strength." She trailed off, the implication clear. They could lose everything. "There's another option." Rowan pushed himself to sitting, ignoring the pain. All eyes turned to him. "Let me go back." "Absolutely not," Kyle growled. "Hear me out. I return under the guise of being your spy. I feed my father false information, sabotage his campaign from within, and die the moment he discovers your deception." Kyle crossed back to the bed, eyes blazing. "No, I won't allow it. It's not your choice, Kyle. This is my life, my decision. Your life belongs to you. Yes. But it also..." Kyle stopped himself, something vulnerable flashing across his face. "I can't lose you, Rowan." "Don't ask me to send you to your death." The confession stole Rowan's breath. Vesa cleared her throat, suddenly fascinated by her boots. "There might be a third option," she said carefully. "A political one. If Rowan were under formal protection, not as a prisoner or defector, but as someone with legitimate claim to sanctuary." Understanding dawned in Kyle's eyes. He looked at Rowan, then back at Vesa. "You're suggesting a bonding?" "A political bonding," Vesa clarified. "It would give Rowan legal protection as a member of your household. Lord Silvermere couldn't demand his return without declaring war on a bonded Omega under royal protection. International law is clear on that point." Rowan's heart hammered. A bonding, even a political one, was permanent, sacred. It meant Kyle would be bound to protect him as his own, and Rowan would officially become part of House Thornridge. "No." Kyle's voice was firm. "I won't trap Rowan into a bond he doesn't want, not even to save his life." "What if I want it?" The words escaped before Rowan could stop them. Kyle's head snapped toward him. "You don't know what you're saying. You're injured, emotional. I'm clear-headed enough to know that everything I've done, leaving my father's house, giving you intelligence, taking that blade, it was all because I chose you." Rowan held Kyle's gaze. "I chose your kingdom over mine. your people over my family, you over everything. A formal bond just makes that choice official. Rowan, Gale's voice was barely a whisper. I'm not asking you to love me, Gale. I understand what this is, political necessity. But if there's a way to protect your people and keep me alive, why wouldn't we take it? The prince was silent for a long moment, emotion warring across his features. Finally, he turned to Vesa. How much time do we have to decide? The bonding ceremony would need to happen before dawn, or it won't stop Lord Silvermere's ultimatum. Kyle looked back at Rowan, something fierce and possessive burning in his eyes. If we do this, there's no going back. You'd be mine, Rowan. Legally, politically, in every way that matters. I know. And I... Kale's jaw clenched. I take care of what's mine. Fiercely, completely. You need to understand what you're agreeing to. Rowan's breath caught at the intensity in Kale's voice, the promise underlying the words. I'm agreeing to survive, to help you, to become what we both need. And what do I need? An ally. A partner. Someone who understands your enemies because they were once one of them. Rowan paused, then added softly, someone who will stand between you and Blades. Kyle's control visibly cracked. He crossed the distance, careful of Rowan's injury, and captured his mouth in a kiss that was claim and question and answer all at once. Rowan melted into it, one hand fisting in Kyle's tunic, tasting desperation and desire, and something that felt dangerously like hope. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Gale rested his forehead against Rowan's again. 3 hours until dawn. If we do this, we do it properly. I won't have anyone questioning the legitimacy of our bond. Then I suppose, Rowan said, smile trembling on his lips, we should prepare for a wedding. From enemies to allies to something deeper. Gale and Rowan's bond will change everything. But can love bloom in the shadow of war? React with heart emoji if this forbidden romance has captured your heart, bound by choice. The royal chapel blazed with candlelight despite the hour. Rowan stood in borrowed finery, deep blue velvet that brought out his amber eyes, silver embroidery that caught the flame light. His injured shoulder ached, but the palace healers had given him something for the pain that left him floating slightly, hyper-aware of every sensation. Gale stood beside the altar in formal ceremonial dress, looking every inch the Alpha Prince, commanding, powerful, beautiful in a way that made Rowan's breath catch. Their eyes met across the sacred space, and electricity arced between them. This was happening. In minutes, they would be bonded, legally, irrevocably bound together. Lord Brennan officiated, his expression carefully neutral despite his obvious misgivings. Lady Commander Vesa stood as witness alongside General Thorne, both looking distinctly uncomfortable with the hasty ceremony. Outside the chapel, guards kept watch for any sign of Silvermere forces. They had hours, maybe less, before Lord Silvermere's ultimatum expired. We gather in unusual circumstances, Brennan began. his voice echoing off stone walls, to witness a bond forged not in peacetime, but in necessity. Yet the sacred nature of this union remains unchanged. Prince Kael Thornridge, do you take this Omega into your household to protect, to honor, to claim as your own before the kingdom and the gods? Kael's eyes never left Rowan's. I do. Rowan Silvermere, do you surrender your former house, accepting Prince Kael as your alpha, binding yourself to his protection and his fate? This was the moment. Rowan could refuse, could walk away and take his chances with his father's wrath. He could preserve his independence, his freedom. But freedom without Kael suddenly felt like the worst cage imaginable. I do, Rowan said firmly. Brennan produced a silver blade, ceremonial and ancient. Blood binds what words begin. Extend your hands. Rowan reached out, his hand trembling slightly. From pain or emotion, he wasn't sure. Kael's hand was steady as stone as they pressed their palms together. The blade cut quick and shallow across their joined hands, mingling their blood. As your blood mingles, so too your fates entwine, Brennan intoned. What is bound here cannot be undone by mortal will. Prince Kael, claim your Omega. This was the moment Rowan had both anticipated and feared. The claiming bite, a deep, primal act that would mark him permanently as Kael's, that would forge a bond deeper than words or law. His Omega instincts surged, urging submission, acceptance. Kael stepped closer, his uninjured hand coming up to cup Rowan's neck. Are you sure? He whispered, so quietly only Rowan could hear. Last chance to run. I stopped running when I came to you, Rowan replied, tilting his head to expose his throat. The ultimate gesture of trust for an Omega. Kael's eyes darkened. He lowered his head, lips brushing the sensitive skin of Rowan's neck. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Kael's teeth sank in, not breaking skin, but applying enough pressure to leave a mark that would linger for days. A traditional claiming that stopped just short of a permanent mating bite. Sensation exploded through Rowan. The bond snapped into place like a physical thing. Awareness of Kael suddenly flooding his consciousness. His alpha's presence, his emotions, his strength. It was overwhelming and perfect, and terrifying all at once. When Kael released him, Rowan swayed. Strong arms caught him immediately, steadying him against a solid chest. I've got you, Kael murmured against his hair. Always. The bond is complete, Brennan announced. By blood and bite, by law and custom, I present Prince Kael and his bonded Omega, Rowan of House Thornridge. Rowan of House Thornridge. Not Silvermere anymore. He'd gained a new name, a new identity, a new life. The weight of it settled over him like armor. The celebration was necessarily brief. Dawn approached, and with it, the deadline for Lord Silvermere's ultimatum. Kael led Rowan to his private chambers, their chambers now, while guards took up positions outside. Inside, Rowan finally allowed himself to collapse onto a cushioned chair exhaustion and pain catching up with him. Kyle knelt immediately, checking his bandaged shoulder with gentle fingers. You're in pain. I'll survive. I'm getting good at it. You shouldn't have to. Kale's voice was rough with emotion. None of this should have happened. You should be safe, cherished, not exactly where I want to be. Rowan caught Kale's hand, lacing their fingers together. The cut from the ceremony had already begun healing, but the dried blood remained, a visible reminder of their bond. I chose this, Kyle. I chose you because I gave you no choice, because your father forced your hand. Kale looked away, guilt etched into his features. This bond, it's a political tool. I won't pretend otherwise. But Rowan, I need you to know. He struggled with the words. What I feel for you, it's not political. It's not strategy. It's... A sharp knock interrupted. Vesa entered without waiting for permission, her expression urgent. Your Highness, we have a problem. Lord Silvermere sent a messenger. He knows about the bonding. Ice flooded Rowan's veins. How? He has spies everywhere, apparently better than we thought. Vesa's jaw tightened. He's declared the bonding invalid, claiming Rowan was coerced. He's mobilizing his forces for a full assault at dawn. Then, we defend, Kyle said, rising to his full height. We've prepared for this. There's more. Vesa hesitated. The messenger delivered this for Rowan. She handed over a sealed letter bearing the Silvermere crest. Rowan's hands shook as he broke the seal and read his father's precise handwriting. Defiant child, you believe yourself safe behind your prince's walls, wearing his mark like a collar. But you are mine by blood, and I will see you returned or dead. Every soldier who falls in the coming battle, their blood stains your hands. Every widow, every orphan, your doing. Come home, and I will show mercy to Thornridge's people. Remain, and I will burn their kingdom to ash with you inside it. You have until the last star fades. Choose. Your father. The letter slipped from Rowan's numb fingers. The ultimatum was clear. His life for the kingdom's safety. One Omega's death to prevent a war that could kill thousands. No, Kyle said immediately, reading his expression. Whatever you're thinking, no. He'll destroy everything, Rowan whispered. All these people, this kingdom, they'll suffer because of me. They'll fight because they believe in something better than your father's tyranny. Kale pulled Rowan to his feet, gripping his arms carefully. You are not responsible for his madness. You are not a sacrifice to be offered up. But if I could save them, by dying, by giving yourself to a monster who already tried to have you assassinated, Kale's voice rose. You're my bonded Omega now, Rowan. That means something. It means I don't let you walk into your death, no matter how noble the reason. Even if it costs your kingdom? Even then. Kale's eyes blazed with absolute certainty. Some prices are too high, and losing you is one of them. The declaration hung between them, weighted with meaning they hadn't yet fully acknowledged. Rowan felt tears burning his eyes, frustration, fear, and something dangerously close to love warring in his chest. "We'll find another way," Kyle promised, pulling Rowan into his arms. "Together." That's what the bond means. We face everything together. Outside, the sky began to lighten. Dawn approached, bringing with it Lord Silvermere's forces and the battle that would determine everything. But wrapped in Kyle's arms, feeling the solid certainty of their bond thrumming between them, Rowan allowed himself to believe in possibility. They had hours to prepare, hours to transform defensive positions into something more strategic, hours to prove that what they had built together, this unlikely alliance, this impossible bond, was worth fighting for. "What do we do?" Rowan asked quietly. Gale's smile was sharp as a blade. "We show your father that the age of tyrants is ending, and we make him regret ever threatening what's mine." The possessive declaration sent shivers through Rowan, not of fear, but of fierce satisfaction. He was claimed, protected, bound to an alpha who would burn the world before giving him up. Whatever came next, they would face it together. War looms, and impossible choices threaten to tear them apart. Can Kale and Rowan's new bond survive the ultimate test? Drop a sword emoji if you're ready for the epic conclusion. Dawn of a new kingdom. The western battlements overlooked a sea of enemy forces. Lord Silvermere's army stretched across the valley like a living thing, banners snapping in the pre-dawn wind. Rowan stood beside Kyle, watching his former house prepare to attack his new one, and felt the surreal weight of how completely his life had transformed in mere days. "You should be inside the keep," Kyle said. "Not for the first time. Protected." "I should be where I can be useful," Rowan countered. "I know my father's strategies, his preferred formations." "That knowledge matters." General Thorne approached, armor gleaming. "Final count. 3,000 enemy troops to our 1,500. They have superior numbers and siege equipment." He glanced at Rowan, expression unreadable. "But we have their prince's son, who apparently knows where they're vulnerable." It wasn't quite acceptance, but it was acknowledgement. Rowan would take it. "The supply wagons are positioned at the rear," Rowan said, pointing. "My father always keeps them far from the front lines. If we could send a strike force to sabotage them, they'd lose food, medical supplies, everything they need for a prolonged siege," Vesa finished, understanding dawning. "That's brilliant." "It's also suicide," Kyle interjected. "Getting a force through their lines. Not through, around." Rowan traced a path on the map, spread across the battlement wall. "There's a canyon passage here, hidden by the ridge. My brothers used it for hunting expeditions. It would take a small force directly behind their position." The military commanders exchanged glances. Brennan spoke up. "If you're wrong about this passage, then I've doomed the people I'm trying to save," Rowan said quietly. "I understand the risk, but I am not wrong." Kyle studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Vesa, select your best rangers, take 50 soldiers and follow Rowan's route. Brennan, prepare the catapults for defensive bombardment. When Silvermere's forces advance, Make them pay for every inch. As the commanders dispersed to their tasks, Kyle pulled Rowan aside. The bond between them thrummed with emotion, determination, fear, something tender that neither had yet named. "If this works," Kyle said, "if we survive this day—" "We will," Rowan insisted. "But if we don't—" Cale's hand came up to cup Rowan's cheek. "I need you to know that these past days with you, this bond we've forged, it's been more real than anything in my life. What started as political necessity became everything," Rowan finished. "I know. I feel it too." Cale kissed him then, desperate and claiming and achingly tender. Rowan kissed back with equal fervor, pouring every unspoken emotion into the contact. When they broke apart, both breathless, the horizon had begun to lighten with true dawn. "Stay alive!" Cale commanded, alpha authority ringing in his voice. "You too?" Rowan replied. "That's an order from your bonded Omega?" Cale's smile was fierce. "Yes, sir." The battle began with a roar. Lord Silvermere's forces charged, shields locked and weapons gleaming. Thornridge's defenders met them with disciplined precision, arrows darkening the sky, catapults launching debris into enemy ranks. The clash of steel on steel echoed across the valley. Rowan moved through the keep's war room, coordinating runners and tracking troop movements. His shoulder ached abominably, but he pushed through it, using his knowledge of his father's tactics to predict enemy movements. When Silvermere forces attempted to breach the eastern gate, Rowan had warned of it minutes before, allowing Cale to reinforce the position. "They're adapting faster than expected," Brennan observed, studying the battle map. "Your father is no fool." "No," Rowan agreed. "But he's arrogant. He assumes I'm cowering in the keep. Useless. He won't expect me to be actively defending against him." A runner burst in, breathless. "Commander Vesa reports success. The supply wagons are burning." Relief and grim satisfaction warred in Rowan's chest. His information had been correct. But that was his father's army burning. People he'd known his entire life, suffering for one man's ambition. The battle raged for hours. Casualties mounted on both sides. Then, as the sun reached its zenith, something changed. A horn sounded from the enemy lines. Not an attack signal, but a parley request. Kyle returned to the war room, blood spattered, but uninjured. His eyes found Rowan immediately, checking, reassuring himself. The bond between them pulsed with shared relief. "Your father wants to talk," Kyle said. "He's requesting a formal parley." Neutral ground, limited escorts. "It's a trap," Rowan said immediately. "Probably," Kyle agreed. "But if there's a chance to end this without more bloodshed, don't go!" Rowan crossed to him, gripping Cale's armor. "Please. You don't know him like I do. He'll use any advantage, break any rule. Which is why I need you there with me." Kyle covered Rowan's hands with his own. "Your knowledge has kept us alive this far. I trust you, Rowan. Not just as a tactical asset, but as my bonded Omega, as my partner." The words settled something in Rowan's chest. Some last piece of doubt or fear finally released. Then We face him together. The parley took place in the valley between armies. Cale brought General Thorn and 4 guards. Lord Silvermere arrived with twice that number, his face a mask of cold fury when he saw Rowan standing at Cale's side, wearing Thornridge colours and Cale's mark. "Traitor!" Lord Silvermere spat. "You dare stand with the enemy, wearing his collar like a pet." "I stand with the righteous," Rowan replied, voice steady despite his racing heart. "Something you've never understood." His father's hand twitched toward his sword, but attacking during parley would make him an oath breaker in front of witnesses. Instead, he turned his attention to Cale. "Prince Thornridge, you've stolen my property and turned my own blood against me, but I'm prepared to be merciful. Return my son, pay reparations for the supplies you destroyed, and I'll withdraw my forces." "Rowan is not property," Kyle said, voice cold as winter. "He's my bonded Omega, a member of House Thornridge by law and choice. He stays with me." "He was coerced. I chose freely," Rowan interrupted. "Before witnesses, before the gods. The bond is legal and binding. You have no claim on me anymore, father. I am your blood. You tried to have me assassinated." Rowan's control finally cracked. "You sent a blade for my heart because I dared stand against tyranny." "What kind of father does that?" Lord Silvermere's expression, twisted with something that might have been pain, quickly masked. "I built an empire. I made our house powerful. And you, my weakest child, you dare lecture me about fatherhood? I dare tell you that power built on corpses and fear is no empire," Rowan said. "It's a graveyard waiting to consume you." I escaped that fate. I found something better. A kingdom that values honor. A bond that values choice. An alpha who would burn his own kingdom before sacrificing someone he's sworn to protect. Pretty words from a traitor. The truth from a free man. Rowan stepped forward, standing between his father and his bonded alpha. "You have a choice now, father. Withdraw your forces, end this pointless war, and live to rebuild, or continue fighting and lose everything. Your supplies are gone. Your troops are exhausted. You cannot win this battle. I can make you bleed for every inch." Lord Silvermere countered. "Yes," Cale agreed, moving to stand beside Rowan. "You can. And we'll bleed too. Hundreds more will die. Your soldiers, my soldiers, people with families and futures. Is your pride worth that cost?" For a long moment, Lord Silvermere was silent, studying them. The old lord looked at his son, no longer cowed, no longer weak, standing beside an enemy prince with absolute certainty. Something shifted in his expression, though whether it was respect or resentment, Rowan couldn't tell. "You've chosen your side," Lord Silvermere said finally. "So be it. But know this, boy. You are dead to me, no longer my son, no longer Silvermere. If we meet again, it will be as enemies." The words should have hurt. Instead, Rowan felt only relief, like chains finally breaking. "Then we're in agreement. I stopped being your son the day I realized you had no heart to love with." Lord Silvermere turned to his officers. "Sound the retreat. We withdraw. Shock rippled through both armies. Lord Silvermere's forces began pulling back, slow and disciplined, while Thornridge defenders held their positions wary of deception. But there was no last-minute betrayal. Lord Silvermere kept his word, retreating with his army until they disappeared beyond the western ridge. The battle was over. Against all odds, they'd won. That night, the keep celebrated while Rowan stood on the battlements, watching stars emerge in a clear sky. He felt Kyle's approach through the bond before hearing his footsteps. That strange, intimate awareness of his alpha's presence. "You're thinking too loud," Kyle said, coming to stand beside him. "I can feel your turmoil." "Is that how the bond works? You feel my emotions?" "Sometimes, when they're strong enough." Kyle's hand found Rowan's, lacing their fingers together. "What's troubling you?" "We won. Your father retreated. We're safe." "I know. It's just—" Rowan struggled for words. "I should feel victorious. Instead, I feel lost," Kyle supplied. "Untethered? Like you've traded one identity for another without knowing who you are anymore." "Yes. Exactly that." Kyle turned him gently, hands framing his face. "You're Rowan of House Thornridge, my bonded Omega, my partner in defending this kingdom. The man who was brave enough to walk into enemy territory and offer alliance when he could have stayed safe in shadows. I'm the man who betrayed his family. You're still the man who chose honor over tyranny. There's a difference." Kyle's thumb brushed Rowan's lower lip. "And Rowan? That bond we forged? It wasn't just political necessity. Not for me. Not anymore." Rowan's breath caught. "Kyle, I'm in love with you." The confession fell between them like a meteor, bright and irrevocable. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you first walked into my throne room, smelling like winter roses and treason. Maybe when you took a blade meant for me. Maybe in 1,000 small moments between. But I love you, Rowan. Not the strategic asset, not the political bond. You!" Tears burned Rowan's eyes. "You can't. This was supposed to be a political alliance. We barely know each other. I know you're brave and brilliant and stubborn as hell. I know you sacrificed everything for people you'd never met. I know that when you smile, actually smile, it's like watching sunrise." Kyle's voice dropped to a whisper. "And I know that the thought of losing you terrifies me more than any army or war. That's not politics, Rowan. That's love." "I love you too," Rowan whispered back, the truth of it stunning him. "I think I have since you stood between me and your entire court, defending a Silvermere you had every reason to hate." Gale kissed him then, tender and claiming and full of promise. Rowan kissed back, pouring every unspoken emotion into the contact. Gratitude, desire, hope, and that fierce, bright love that had somehow bloomed in the space between enemy and ally. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Rowan rested his forehead against Kyle's. "So what happens now? Now?" Kyle's smile was brilliant, Now we build something new. A kingdom where former enemies can find home. Where bonds are forged in choice, not compulsion. Where an Omega from the wrong house can become a prince. A prince? You're my bonded Omega. That makes you royalty, whether you like it or not. Kyle's expression turned serious. But more than that, Rowan, you're my partner. My equal. In ruling, in defending, in everything. Rowan's chest ached with emotions too large to name. He'd left his father's house with nothing, expecting death or imprisonment. Instead, he'd found purpose, belonging, and love with the one person he should have been able to trust least. Together, then, Rowan said. The word a promise and a vow. Together, Kyle agreed. Always. They stood on the battlements as night deepened around them. Two souls who'd found each other across a chasm of blood and history. The kingdom stretched below, bruised by battle but unbroken. Defended by an alpha prince and his Omega who dared choose each other over destiny. Tomorrow would bring challenges. There would be political ramifications, rebuilding efforts, the slow work of forging true peace. But tonight, wrapped in each other's arms under a canopy of stars, Rowan allowed himself to believe in the impossible. He was home. Not in a place, but in a person. In the bond they had forged, the love they had found, the future they had fight for together. And that was worth every risk, every sacrifice, every impossible choice that had led him here. The end, from sworn enemies to bonded lovers. Kyle and Rowan proved that love can bloom even in the darkest circumstances. Their journey showed us that family is chosen, that courage means standing for what's right, and that the strongest bonds are forged in fire. Thank you for joining them on this epic romance. Comment your favorite moment below and share if this story touched your heart.